Well, hey everybody, this here's Bubba Batman back with you. And man, I tell you what, it's been a hot day, but it's been a good one. I feel good. I look good, and I hope you feel and look good. But anyway, I just want to come back and let you know I'm just excited about telling you another story today. But this story ain't one that happened to me, but it happened to Brother Jerry's grandpa. And Brother Jerry told me that when he shared the story to me that I actually told it better than he did, so he wanted me to tell it, and he's going to come back out here after a while and tell you one of them parables about it. But anyway, this happened a long time ago when Brother Jerry, just a little boy. Oh, his goodness, it was in the mid-late 60s, maybe early 70s, I don't know, but he was a little boy and living at home, and his grandpa and his grandma raised him, and took him when he was 5 months old and raised him like he was their own, and they was his mom and daddy figures in his life, and his papa, and I'll call him Pa or Papa along the way there. That's what he called him, and he was a good man and a good godly man. And Brother Jerry gets his love to deer hunt a lot from his grandpa. And that's how me and Brother Jerry got to know each other. We both like to hunt. But anyhow, his grandpa back in them days was trying his best to kill him a deer, but in the 60s up here in North Mississippi, there wasn't hardly no deer around nowhere. And Paul, I'll just call him Paul. He hunted and hunted a lot, and hunted hard, and he just couldn't even see a deer for nothing. And he was out there in the cold weather and just weathering the elements and just trying his best, but he couldn't see nothing. And he got sick and tired of it. And even though he was a good Christian man and always tried to do right and taught Brother Jerry to do right, he got weak. And he decided he had to kill him a deer one way or the other. So, he come up with this here plan. And he'd been seeing around in the field way back there behind the house around the tree line. There was a big old field that had corn in it or something. And he noticed that there was deer tracks all around. He knew they was coming in there sometime or another, but he had been hunting back there, but he never had seen one. But he said, they must be coming in there at night. And bad as he hated to, by Janie, he decided he's going to try to get him a deer one way or the other, like I said. But anyhow, he got everything ready, and he went and got his rifle. And one of these days, Brother Jerry let me show you his rifle. It's in that gun safe right there. But it's Brother Jerry's proudest earthly possessions, his grandpa's rifle that he gave him. It was a Browning rifle, and anyhow, he got that rifle out, and Paul had a big old long handle flashlight, and it had 4 of them big old D-cell batteries that run in it, and it had a big old end on it about that big, and it was like a spotlight. So he took that big old light and made a spotlight out of it and taped it to the gun barrel. And then he went down to the community store, and he bought a bunch of. It was close to Christmas time, anyhow. And I always sold fireworks around Christmas time. And he bought a box slap full of firecrackers and bottle rockets and just all kinds of stuff to make noise and racket. And he come back home and he told Mom and here a few minutes ago showed you the picture of Paul and Ma, but he told Ma and he told Brother Jerry, who was just a little boy, about 8 or 9 years old. He said, I want y'all to wait right here in the living room. And I'm going to go out there in the field, and I'm going to get up on top of that old barn. And I'm going to sit there. And I'm going to wait as long as I have to until I know sooner or later there's bound to be a deer come up there in that field. And when I'm going to shine my light out there at it, and I'm going to kill us a deer. And Mama tried to talk him out of it, but But Paul done had his mind set on it, and he was going to do that. So anyhow, here he went, and Paul, when Paul went out the door, Brother Jerry, and which he wasn't Brother Jerry then, he was just little Jerry, but Jerry and Mama and Ma sat together just quiet as church mouse in the living room listening. And everything was real quiet. And they was waiting to hear Paul's gun go off. So, and he said, now when that gun goes off, y'all run outside, just be ready right quick and start popping a bunch of them firecrackers and bottle rockets and everything to kind of cover up my gunshot so people won't know I'm out here killing deer in the dark. And they wanted to camouflage what he was doing with a bunch of popping and booming and carrying on. Had him a pretty good plan together, you know. But anyhow, Paul was out there on the barn. Ma and Jerry was waiting, and they waited and they waited and they waited, and an hour or two went by, and Mama was getting kind of worried about him and thinking that maybe we need to go out there and get him or something. But then all of a sudden we heard boom, and they knew Paul had done fired that deer rifle off, and so Jerry and Ma run out there on the patio of the house, and they started popping firecrackers just as fast as they could. Pow, 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 pow. Boom, bam, 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 boom. You know, like Batman in a fight, you know. Remember that on TV? Anyway, they popped up every firecracker they had, every bottle rocket, every Roman candle, everything they had to make any kind of a noise. And Paul ain't got back yet, and they went back in the house because it was cold, and they sat there and they waited and they waited and they waited, and still Paul ain't got home yet. Well, Mama began to get real concerned about it. She said, I think I need to go call your daddy, son, and have him come look for Paul. And she was just about to do that, and all of a sudden heard kind of some stirring and a little bit of a ruckus out on the front porch. And then we heard the storm door kind of opening up, and when we opened the main door and looked, there was Paul. But Paul didn't look right. There was something wrong with him, and he was all stove up and bent over, and every time he moved, he'd go, and he was grunting and hurting and just barely could move, barely could walk, and he coming out, and Mom said, Lord, what's wrong? What in the world happened? And Paul told us that he got out there on the very top of that barn, right on the end of it, and he sat up there on that point of it, and said he'd sit there and he'd turn that flashlight on, and he'd scan with that rifle around, looking all around over that field. Didn't see nothing. He'd turn it back off and put it down. And every few minutes he'd raise it up, turn it on, and he'd look around. Well, finally, after a while, he was shining around, and up, he saw two eyes shining down there. And from the height of it off the ground, he said, yep, that has to be a deer. So he took his rifle scope and he put it down about where he thought the chest of that deer would be, and when he pulled the trigger, and when he shot, he was on the top of that barn, right on the tip top of it up here. And the kick of that rifle, it's a pretty big rifle, it kicked, and the kick of the gun knocked him over backwards, and he slid all the way off of that tin top off that barn and fell and come down and hit plumb off the roof and hit the ground full force, and the gun fell over here and knocked the wind out of him. He couldn't hardly breathe, bruised his ribs up, and took him a while just to get his breath back before he could even get up. And he said he was hurt so bad he didn't even care about going looking for no cockeyed deer. He was hurt. So he hobbled back to the house. Well, told Mama to go call my Brother Jerry's daddy and to come over there and see if he could, best I remember, he said it was cold and it'd be all right to wait and call him up in the next morning and to go look for it. So anyhow, they did, And sure enough, Paul got his deer. But man, he paid a bad price for it. He was busted, just bruised up. He didn't break nothing, but he was hurting. But anyhow, Paul didn't do that no more. He decided to live the righteous life of a good, ethical hunter. From that point on, he learned his lesson. And normally he wouldn't have done that no way. Not to excuse anything, but he realized he paid the consequences of making of the wrong choice there. Well, anyhow, Brother Jerry gonna come back out here, and he gonna try to tell you a parable about that story about his grandpa. So I'm gonna go get him, and as soon as he gets back, we'll be back in just a second here. We'll listen to the parable Brother Jerry got to say. Well, hello there. Yeah, I understand that Bubba Batman shared with you a story about Paul. And, yeah, I got my love for deer hunting honest. It run in the family. Paul loved to hunt, my daddy loved to hunt, and I love to hunt, my brother loves to hunt, Bubba Batman loves to hunt. We just all a hunting and fishing bunch. That's our thing, you know. But, anyhow, as we look at the story about Paul and what he'd done, we first realize that the Bible has some things to tell us about making those kind of choices. You know, David, the man after God's own heart, as strong a Christian man or a godly man as he was, he made some wrong choices. And by doing so, he paid the consequences of those bad choices. And, you know, the Bible tells us to be sure your sins will find you out. And not only that, it also tells us we will reap what we sow. There's a modern cliche that says what goes around comes around. And if we do the wrong thing, we'll pay for it. You know, like that scripture that talked about reaping what we sow. The Apostle Paul begins that statement by saying, I believe it's in Galatians 6, 7, and 8, that be not deceived, God is not mocked, for whatever we sow we'll reap. You know, when Paul, I know, remembered the time that the Lord appeared to him on the road to Damascus back before he became a Christian. Well, he was a man who was doing everything he could to destroy the cause of Jesus Christ. He persecuted Christians and chased them into foreign cities, gave consent to their deaths, and was standing there when they stoned the first Christian martyr to death, Stephen. But when the Lord appeared to Saul, then Saul of Tarsus, before he became the Apostle Paul, he made the statement to him that fits our story today. He said, Saul, why persecutest thou me? It is hard to kick against the pricks, or to kick against the goads. In other words, a goad is like a pitchfork. And when you do something wrong and you resist God, you're just like kicking a pitchfork. You ain't doing nothing but hurting yourself. And once we learn that, it'll make us have a better motive for living right and doing the good things of life and leaving off the bad and making right choices instead of evil and sinful choices. So, Bubba's story about Paul hopefully will be a parable to teach us a lesson about, even though we just all of a sudden make the wrong choice and that we face the consequences and the pain that comes from that choice, still we can start all over and with God's grace make right choices from then on. Well, I hope it's been a good story, that you've enjoyed it, and Bubba Batman enjoyed telling it. But he'll be back again in a few days to share another one with us, and I hope everybody will subscribe and add some comments if you'd like, and hit that like button and grow our little segment here. But anyway, you have a wonderful day, and may God bless every one of you. Take care. On behalf of Bubba Batman, This is Brother Jerry. Good day.